Hey, this is Mike McAdam from GenXGuitar. Are you thinking about going to music school? Here's 5 mistakes you can avoid making. So I think this is a really important video to talk about today because I think the music industry is one of the worst industries in terms of the fantasy of what it is versus the reality of what it is. And when people decide they want to go to music schools, a lot of this kind of comes to a head. Now, I want to preface this video by saying that I don't want to come off like an angry, bitter, old musician that I didn't get my shot, so now I'm going to ruin it for you. Everything I'm talking about in this video has actually been tested with students and people I've worked with over the last 20 years. So a little bit about my background. Since 2003, I've been the school director at North Main Music here in Nashua, New Hampshire. We're a music lessons studio, and I've also done lessons here on guitar in that time. I'm a graduate from Berklee College of Music in 2004, and I worked as a guitar instructor at Rivier University here in Nashua. So with that in mind, most of the case studies I've done have been with guitar players, but we have worked with other musicians as well that have come through the school that have looked for advice or had to kind of tailor themselves to go to music schools. Number 1, not correctly setting your goals. One of the first things I will ask music students is, can you see yourself working on music for 12 hours a day, at least 5 days a week? If your answer is no or I don't know, I highly recommend you think about another profession. There's something about music and the arts. It's a passion and it chooses us. We don't choose it. So it's really important to understand if you don't feel like you have any other choice but to get into music, that's something you want to strongly consider. I find a lot of people, just because they're good players or they really enjoy it, they feel like they want to make that next step and try to do it for a profession. And that's where a lot of the problems start. A lot of times what happens is going to music school ultimately becomes a compromise. Well, I'm really good at playing the violin and I can't really see myself doing anything else, or I don't know what I want to do. And what happens is either your parents or guidance counselor will say, well, why don't you go to school for music? You have to figure out whether that's really the right thing for you to do. So accurately setting goals and figuring out whether what you really want to do versus what you think you can do, that those two things align. A lot of times, like I said, it becomes a compromise where you're like, well, I'll get into music teaching or music business because that's kind of a safe thing to do going to music school. But do you really want to do those things? So I would give that a lot of thought and really map out your goals. Number 2, not accurately self-assessing. So it's really important to figure out, what are you good at in music? What are you not good at in music? And understand that a curriculum in a school may have you working on a ton of things that you're either not good at or not interested in. More on that later. How do you monetize these things if you're looking to make a career in music? So you may find that, I work mostly with guitar players. Many guitar players don't read very well. So you are going to be reading and writing music in a music school. So it's important to spend some time on that skill. We have a tendency as humans to work on the things that we're already good at. And sometimes that can serve us well, but sometimes that's also a problem. So really take a look at what you need work on and spend extra time trying to bring that stuff up and have it ready to go to a music school. Number 3, thinking you can just work on the things that you want to work on. I have talked to so many people that think you just go to a music school and you jam all day and just hang out and play with amazing musicians all day. I've found that most of that stuff happens outside of class and at nighttime. The thing that's great about schools is it can be a hypercharged music Olympics, as I call it, where you work with a lot of talented people and become inspired by talented people. But the actual reality of it is most of the coursework you're going to do and the majority of time that you're spending in your music school is going to be working on the curriculum. And it may be things that you're not as interested in: ear training, composition, theory, music reading, music writing, arranging, things of that nature. So you really need to ask yourself if you're willing to put the work on those things. Number 4, that it will help you to become a performing artist. I have found most music schools do not help you become a performing artist. Of course, there are many experiences and people you can meet and things that you learn that will help you along that path. But basically, if you're a young artist, you realistically have until about the age of 30 to where your life priorities change, and everything you do between now and that moment needs to be centered on what you're trying to do with your career. Believe it or not, going to a music school can set you back a bit because you're going to be spending tons of time doing things that aren't necessarily going to help you be a performing artist. I always say to musicians, if that is what you have to do and what you want to do, you would probably be better served moving to Nashville or LA or one of the major music centers and start meeting people where you can build a career. You know, working on math, working on music theory, things like that are not necessarily going to help you if you are just trying to be a performer. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times what happens is this just becomes a concession between you and your parents or a guidance counselor where it's like, okay, go to music school, it's going to help you with that. In my experience, it does not help with that. Number 5, adjusting to competition. Unfortunately, many musicians I know who are very talented are used to being the most talented instrumentalist or singer in whatever environment they're in, and they wind up going to a music school and they're just another person because there are a ton of people there that are super talented. I know when I went to Berkeley, I would have someone in the practice room on the right, some in the practice room on the left, and there were times where I asked myself if I was making the right career decision. If you have your goals laid out and you know what you're good at and you know what you can do, that can really serve you in that situation. But if you're not used to the kind of competition that you often find in these schools, it can be a real detriment to some people. So you may be in a situation where you are suddenly not the most talented player out there. So what do you do? To the first point in the video, if you have accurately set up your goals, now you can figure out where can you make this work. Because what I've noticed with a lot of musicians is some people are good at things that you're not good at and vice versa. So if you know where you're headed, that can be a way to kind of navigate that and not have that crush of being around so many other people that are talented. So just to recap, point number 1, not accurately setting goals. Point number 2, not accurately self-assessing. Point number 3, thinking you can just do what you want at a school and work on the music that you want to work on. Point number 4, thinking music school will help you as a performing artist. Point number 5, assessing your competition. So thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe. If you have gone to music school or are looking to go to music school and this video helped, let us know in the comments section below. See you in the next video.